This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talks. Sunday stream of consciousness. I want to wish everybody out there a happy Father's Day, whether you've got a dad and, you know, if your dad's not here, I hope you find a way to honor him today. And for those of you who still have your dads or are a dad yourself, certainly enjoy the day with him, with your children, or however you tend to spend it. Hopefully, we'll have a good day wherever you are. Looks okay where we are here in upstate New York. I'll be with my dad and my father-in-law and the dad-to-be. So it'll be a very interesting day today and a lot of fun, hopefully. So we hope you have the same amount of fun that we're going to have here today. So what else? Welcome to everybody on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube that are viewing us live. We'll be replaying this show at 12 o'clock today on Roku. At some point, I'll share the show on Instagram, which I've been doing consistently here the last few weeks, getting a lot of followers very quickly. Twitter, too. So any place, guys, please share the show to whatever social media outlets you have. Please invite your friends to like TGI Sports Talk and obviously Northeast Streaming Sports, where this show is being broadcast to as well. Lots of big stuff happening on TGI Sports Talk, so and Northeast Streaming Sports. So more to come in the coming months here. Today we're going to chat a little bit as I talked about. And good morning to who we got here. Good morning, Mark Hernandez. Good to have you with us up here in upstate New York, Buffalo, Western New York, I guess. Do you consider yourself upstate New York or Western New York, Mark? Good question. Because we're in the Albany area here, East Greenbush, New York, a suburb of Albany. And hopefully you're having a great day out there. But I am interested in how you guys consider yourselves. And good morning to Alan. Alan, I gave you a little shout out on Mac and Jack. You didn't, well, not you specifically, but your constant barraging of me of how the Yankee prospects traded in the Joey Gallo trade have helped your Rangers stay around 500. So we'll be talking a little bit of hockey, obviously, as we roll through the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and not a good start for the Lightning here in the finals. Just blitzed last night, the second worst loss in NHL finals history, I believe. 7-0. It was just ugly. I think it was at least 6-0 at the end of two periods. So maybe it was 5. But it was not pretty to watch if you were rooting for the Lightning. Albany is the state's capital. Yes, it is. Thank you, Mark. The Lightning is getting thundered. You're absolutely right there. Happy Father's Day to you, Neil. Good to have you with us today. So, yes, we'll be talking. We'll have Jim Biringer on from Last Word on Hockey and FullPressHockey.com. He writes a column bi-weekly, I think. I'm not even sure how often it is, but I try to share them on TGI Sports Talk, as well as his Last Word on Hockey show from the Mad Radio Network. When I catch it at the right time, I actually stream it live to TGI Sports Talk. I did yesterday. So check those videos out and his articles. After that, we'll talk some Major League Baseballs, look at the power rankings, who's hot, who's not, who's potential buyers and sellers come the trade deadline, which is August 3rd, I think now they've moved it to, or 2nd. I think it's the 3rd. But I think teams will start moving here very quickly if they think they've got a chance to make a move. Plus, we'll look at some other news and notes around baseball. We'll talk some NFL. I got some thoughts on the whole Jack Del Rio thing. We'll talk to Deshaun Watson if I have to. And the NBA, we'll take a little look at the Warriors. And congratulations to the Warriors. They've done something no other I guess we'll use the word dynasties ever done and come back virtually from the dead with the same core to win another championship after a couple of years. And we'll look at Steph Curry and where he stacks up in the all-time rankings in the NBA. U.S. Open's going on too, and this ties in a little bit with a vlog I did the other day about the live tour now out in Saudi Arabia, which I think is ridiculous. And I'm happy to see some of the guys. Look I have been the biggest Phil Mickelson in the world my entire lifetime, his entire lifetime. I'm older than him. But what they're doing is ridiculous. And I was happy to see Phil miss the cut. Dustin Johnson is still in contention, I guess, at +1. I think he is. Patrick Reed struggling good. Happy to see these guys struggle because they are doing something that is reprehensible in helping in a sports washing of a regime that is just despicable and done despicable things to this country and their own. I just don't understand it. And watch my vlog from Friday, and you can catch a little more of that. We aren't going to dive too much into it, but good luck. Some good names. So it's interesting. It's an interesting mix at the top of the leaderboard today, with some no names. Fitzpatrick, not no names. Sorry, I don't mean to disparage these guys. Not household names. Zalatoris, Fitzpatrick at the top, but you got John Rahm closing in. Scott Scheffler, a great story in golf. This year and last year, is only 2 shots off the lead. Keegan Bradley, who was a great story quite a few years ago now. It seems like that long ago, but Keegan Bradley was a rising star who just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Keegan Bradley only 2 shots off the lead today. Rory McIlroy, who's had troubles in majors, 3 shots off the lead. So it'll be an interesting final round of the U.S. Open today for sure. Yeah, it's a money grab for sure, Neil. As far as the live tour, it's ridiculous. I mean, to get paid, and I don't begrudge people making money. I don't begrudge people making money. As a rule, if you watch me and my commentaries, I think if somebody's willing to pay you money, whatever the amount, then you're worth it. But this is blood money, and it's sports washing at its worst, and I don't know why they do it. How many Texas Rangers are in your American League lineup? The All-Star voting did open up this past week, by the way. So we'll be diving into that in the coming weeks. And we'll talk about who deserves to be there and who doesn't. Zalatoris has been knocking at the door, and is he due? Sure. And I'll tell you what, there aren't many guys who break through at the U.S. Open for their first. I can think of a few. Steve Jones years ago, I remember. And they were kind of one and done, some of these guys. But it's not the place most guys usually break through. They usually break through at the PGA. That's the biggest one that I can think of where guys kind of break through and get their first major. But he's knocking at the door, and he's very deserving, and he's played some great golf this week. And I like to watch this type of golf. 4 under par leading the tournament. I'm okay. That there's only 6 guys or 7 guys, whatever it is. Maybe a few more as I look at it. But a handful of guys for under par. I like to watch these guys go out and struggle. I love it when they set up these courses so that these guys have quite a challenge in front of them. I know they don't like it because they like shooting 20 under par, but it's not fun. This is more fun for me to watch on TV. So anyway, good luck to them and that. And well, as I said, we're waiting on Jim Biringer to come in. We'll talk some NHL hockey. Alan's got a couple of all-stars from the Rangers, Seager, and Helm. We'll see how that all flushes out. A little early. We don't have any voting results back yet. We will probably in a week or 2 at the latest. They'll start reporting some of those results. One other thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm sure it'll come up again later in the show, but I want to talk about the latest. This isn't a political show, but sports, unfortunately, does have to straddle the real world, right? And now the latest team to change their name, and you'll hear me refer to the Indians and the Redskins, and I'm sorry. It's just who I am, and there's rich tradition in these names with these teams, and I get some of the arguments. I don't get others. I don't know why the Indians had to change their name. The Redskins, I guess you can make an argument, but it's hard for me to get too excited. Teams with the name Warriors. I don't know why a lot of schools, Marquette universities, change their name. But now the George Washington Colonials have changed their name, or changing their name. They haven't done it yet. They're going to use it until they come up with a new name. But because Colonials, to some people, the name represents people who came here and took land away from the indigenous people that were here. And I understand all that. But for the most part, colonial doesn't have a negative connotation. And it's just more political correctness that is just, I mean, it's getting ridiculous. And look, I freely admit, I am one of the least woke people on the planet Earth. So, and fairly not apologetic for it, but there are times where I do need to apologize, and I do when it's warranted. So we'll probably dive into that a few more times. It'll be a topic that comes up for me from time to time as I do my shows, because of the sheer ludicrousy of what what the situation is. What's going to offend somebody next? Yankees are going to offend somebody next from the South, and we'll have to change the Yankees name. Anyway, let's get on to something more interesting than this topic. Our man from hockey, Jim Biringer, from the Last Word on Hockey on the Mad Radio Network, fullpresshockey.com. Read his articles there. I try to share them when I remember to get over there and share them. And when I see Jim shared somewhere, usually I pick it up and try to get it on the page. But if you can't check it out on TGI Sports Talk, get to Full Press Hockey and like their page, and you'll be able to get those notifications, I'm sure, when new stuff comes out. So welcome, Jim Biringer. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Happy Father's Day to your dad today. I know he is another, along with Amanda and your mother, they're the people that follow you the closest, I think, from at least my experience with you being on my show.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you for that. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. And yeah, it's Stanley Cup final, 2 games in, lots to discuss.
What has happened after a great game 1? The Lightning fall in a hole and come back to tie that game and force overtime. They lose it, but a great first game of the finals. Last night, I mean, it was just like a blitzkrieg. Every time I turned around, there was a guy in the open with nothing but open ice in front of him, heading towards the Lightning goal. What happened last night, Jim?
I think Colorado's speed is just on another level right now. Their best defense is a good offense. And it's just weird to think that a team with so much structure, with so much defense, is giving up so much ice. But that's what speed does. I mean, it creates openings. It creates things on the ice. If you go back to game 1, the overtime winner by Burakovsky, I mean, it's a sloppy turnover. They come back on the transition. That was the one thing that they were able to do against other teams, was slow down their transition game. And the mistakes that they made didn't end up in their back of their net. But right now, Colorado's speed is just too much right now. And you could see it from the beginning. I mean, I think John Cooper was just as surprised as everybody else that his team came out so flat. And no one's really, I mean, over this last stretch, I don't think anybody has seen the Tampa Bay Lightning play this bad in a really, really long time, especially in the Stanley Cup final game, especially with their history of being able to bounce back and, adjust so well. But the issue is Colorado's speed, and they just keep coming after you. They don't slow down, and Tampa has yet to adjust. And I think the biggest thing for me is that the sloppy turnovers, the poor breakouts, and the constant not having enough time and space is basic, simple hockey, and that's what Colorado's playing right now.
Yeah, and early in the Rangers series, we saw a little bit of the same thing where the Rangers' speed was overwhelming the Lightning after coming off a layoff. What's the difference here? Can the Lightning adjust like they did in that series?
They're going to have to, or the series is over Wednesday night.
Are they able to? That's the question I guess I have. Are they going to be able to make the same adjustments and have it effective against the Avs like it was against the Rangers?
The issue is you saw in game 2 at one point the Lightning adjusted in game and were able to take it to the Rangers, almost tie game 2, and took the play over. and carried it into game 3. We have not seen any of that. The best stretch they had was in the second period of game 1, where they tied the game, and you know, they were able to tie Kucherov, Sergachev, and then they started to dictate play. Again, special teams is the Tampa Bay Lightning power play is just not coming through when it matters the most. Do they look tired? I don't think they look tired. I think I think just Colorado's speed is just opening up holes in the Tampa Bay structure that we haven't seen. The cross seam passes there again. Vasilevsky's just getting blitzkrieged. I mean, there's not a lot on the goals. There's not really that many that are his fault. I mean, the team in front of him is just not playing well.
I was going to say that. I mean, you can't blame him for these 7 goals because, like I said, almost every time I looked up, I mean, not everyone, but gee, the guys there was nobody in. I can't remember who it was. Gosh, one of the better Colorado players, and the name's escaping, but I watched him go like 180 feet with nobody in front of him up the ice to take a shot at goal.
Yeah, I mean, McKinnon's speed were just ridiculous. They were just playing. They're just playing on a different level right now, and you could clearly see it. And look, everybody, says Darcy Kemper, this and that. Darcy Kemper faced 17 shots in game 2 and faced 23 shots in game 1. And of the 3 goals that they scored, when he was tested, he didn't look that good. They're protecting him because they know he's a liability back there, and they're winning not because of that Darcy Kemper, but despite him, because their offense is dictating everything right now. They are just their best defense is a good offense, and they're pinning the other team in their defensive zone, and that's what happens, and that's what Colorado's doing right now, and they're on a mission.
What both of ours, I think, 2 of our favorite cliches to me, which aren't really cliches. There are cliches that are not really cliches. 2 of them are you're the champion until you're not, and somebody beats you. And the other one that comes into play here is these series really don't start till the home team loses a game. Both of those are still in play. Are the Lightning going to be able to regroup and make this a series as they head back to Tampa?
Well, they better, because it's 1 day off now in between games. There's no more 2 days off. There's no time for travel. You're on a plane and you're heading back, and you better adjust and you better look at things right now.
Yeah, you got some time. And Carlos also mentions that the Avs are doing what the Rangers should have done. Well,
Yeah, but the Rangers didn't have the talent as
you got to have the personnel. Yeah.
Colorado, look at Colorado's defense. McCarr, Taves, Byram, Johnson, Manson, Johnson. I mean, they have body. Everybody up and down that lineup has speed. And there's no Kadri in the lineup. Burakovsky went down with an injury yesterday, and they're still doing this because of the talent that they have on that team. Look, the Lightning have to adjust. Keep the game simple. They do it. They're a different team on home ice. Let's see if they can adjust and make the proper adjustments necessary to beat Colorado. They got to keep the game simple. Better breakout passes. I said that going into game 2. I saw it in game 1. 2 nonchalant breakout passes, trying to back tic-tac. No. Regroup, better breakouts leads to – they're not going to get away with the stretch pass anymore, so you got to bring guys in closer to get your breakouts going now, because Colorado's right there. Establish your forecheck. Establish the game that won you this series against the Rangers and everybody else. Get pucks deep, go chase them. The issue is Colorado's defense can move the puck out quicker than you can. You don't want to be playing from behind with that defense. So hit everything that moves. It's tough to do with these guys, but Colorado's the best road team in the playoffs, 7-0.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing with fire right now. Tampa Bay is, it's going to be tough to win both games on home ice, just the way Colorado is playing right now.
Can they win one and get the series back to Colorado, I think, is the question right now.
And the real question is, can they get one and send it back to Colorado? Yeah. Because it's crazy to think that the defending champions are looking like this. They had a chance to steal game 1. They were 1 shot away, even playing the way they did. Last night, you throw it away. Like we see it in all sports. Just throw it away and move on to the next one. You got to wonder, all this hockey they've played, everything has it caught up to them. And playing the defensive structure of blocking shots and just doing all that over and over and over again has it finally caught up, because Colorado's just on a different level right now.
Yeah, they are. They didn't. They. I mean, this. I mean, that's. If I heard this right, last night, this is the second worst defeat in the history of the Stanley Cup Finals. Does that sound right?
It's one of. It's. I think. Yeah. It's up there. I know. 91 Pittsburgh beat Minnesota like 8-0.
I think that's what I heard was a worst loss. Yeah.
Yeah. The 7 goals is the second most goals differential in the Stanley Cup final. Pittsburgh beat Minnesota 8-0. I know Colorado beat Florida 7-1 in 96. That's the last time. Game 2. So there was something that could have happened last night that hadn't happened since 1996, was that a player would score a hat trick in the Stanley Cup final. Last hat trick was Peter Forsberg. Also happened in Game 2 against the Panthers. Valery Nichushkin and Kale McCarr were both a goal away. Nichushkin couldn't get it because of after the scrums towards the end of the game, where they just separated everybody and sent everybody to the locker room 5 minutes each for fighting, and said, your night's done.
Well, there is more news around the world of hockey. Yes, some interesting movement in the coaching level. John Tortorella gets another gig, which I think he's on a pace to coach every team in the NHL here before long. He gets the Philadelphia Flyer gig. I'm not sure about the fit there myself, both with the city maybe and the team.
And the media.
It goes early. He always does well really quickly, right? And turns teams around. But then it goes, he's like almost like Billy Martin with the Yankees, or, in baseball, I should say. It goes downhill very quickly after some early success.
Yeah, it does. It does. But look, towards the Philly, look, I know they're trying to improve this team. They just don't have the personnel to do it. They need to go full on rebuild. And Torch just is the guy for this team, unfortunately. Look, let's see what they can. Maybe if they can turn some things around like he did in Columbus, where they play a more defensive structure that helps Carter Hart, doesn't leave him out to dry all the time. That's what they have to focus in, and then the offense comes. But again, expectations in Philly are like a lot of other places. You got to win now. Need a cup. Got to get back in the playoffs. I hate to say it, Flyers aren't making the playoffs next year.
It's gonna be seen blowing up and team apart even more. I'm confident that he'll have some early success, because he always does.
Look what he did with Columbus. Look what he did with the Rangers. It's just interesting. I mean,
I think he's on his own worst enemy. I think that guy.
Sometimes he is. Sometimes he is. I think he's a brilliant hockey mind. He's a brilliant coach, but Philadelphia, that market, the media, the fans, very demanding.
The other interesting move, I thought, the Bruins, who had dumped Cassidy after a pretty good run with the Bruins, I thought. I mean, maybe not championship success, but certainly success. Very quickly lands a job with Las Vegas. Any thoughts on that?
It's a great hire. I like Bruce Cassidy. Always loved him in Boston. Thought he got a raw deal in Boston. The way he left it because of Don Sweeney and Cam Neely trying to protect their jobs and basically scapegoating Cassidy. I mean, look what he did this year with this team through the COVID. No Tuukka Rask, no David Krejci. He figures out ways to get this team to 107 points. Any other year that would have made you a divisional winner in the Atlantic. The East was just so top heavy with 800-point teams. They lose in Game 7 by 1 goal. That's not that's on Don Sweeney for not improving the areas of this team that needed to be improved, which was depth scoring. The same things over and over with the Bruins, where rely on Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron to do something. Okay, let's see where the depth scoring is coming from. They didn't have any. Yes, they were able to move Krejci down, move DeBrusk up, get the 2 lines going. But again, the same issues continue to show up. Now in Vegas, good team, be different message. He's going to be able to handle the players a little bit better. Got really good, talented team, more depth on this team than he did have in Boston. And I think he's going to make Vegas a playoff team next year, and they're probably going to be a contender again. He's very good with the power play. He knows they need to fix the power play. That's one of their weaknesses, and they have the talent to do it. With the trade of getting Shea Weber's contract from Montreal for Dadonov, that opens up a lot of cap space for them now to make some moves, and they could put Weber on LTIR. That frees up the $7.8 million. So they gained a lot of cap space because of that deal, and they're going to make some moves to improve this team a little bit here. So, Vegas, very sneaky good pickup.
Yeah, very good pickup for sure. This, it's interesting now with these two jobs off the board. Bruins still open, which is a good job. Where do we see Barry Trotz landing? Is he going to sit for a year and see what happens, or do you see him getting one of these remaining opportunities? There are some interim coaches still in play, but he's obviously, as we know, got fired by Islanders, and by the way, replaced by his assistant Lane Lambert, which I think is an interesting.
And by the way, all the assistants got fired too by the Islanders. They made an announcement a couple of weeks ago that the assistants were going to be let go too. Look, Trotz.
Just real quick while you're on that, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I always find something like that is very interesting when an assistant coach gets hired, when his boss gets fired, and everybody else loses their job. You wonder what's going on with the back channels with this guy and management and whatever else.
That's Lou. Everything falls on Lou. And so again, if this team doesn't perform offensively, is it going to be Trotz's fault anymore? No.
Can't be.
Can't be. With the personnel on the roster, it comes down from the general manager. Trotz is linked to Winnipeg, obviously. Florida as well, because they have not decided about Andrew Brunette, which was a little bit shocking to see because he was second in the Jack Adams Award, but his assistants were let go as well. He bought a house in Nashville. Maybe he'll do some management there. Who knows? Obviously with the Boston job, you hear names like Mark Savard, Jay Leach, Rick Tocchet's, the usual guys, because Pete DeBoer is probably going to go to Dallas. Jay Woodcroft appears he's going to sign a new extension with Edmonton to be the coach there. So still some coaching carousel things to be determined. But, that Florida job, it looks good because they have a team that can win now, but they may be looking to move some cap money around as well with the goalie and maybe go younger with Spencer Knight. So it's going to be interesting to see where all these coaches land. A lot of good candidates still out there. Maybe get a fresher look someplace.
Were you surprised to see, and again, I know there was some other issues with Quenneville. I mean, were you surprised to see him step away, or there was no other choice?
There was no other choice there. I mean, he couldn't stay there. It was just too damaging and too damning for him, and then he had to go. It wouldn't have been a good look.
And what about any of these other? You mentioned Woodcroft. What about the Blackhawks have an interim situation?
Yeah,
too?
I think they're probably gonna try to get somebody else. Even I know Derek King's in the running, but I think they're gonna try to go a different direction as well.
A storied franchise, certainly on been in a downward trend here for a few years. I mean, is that a spot where Trotz could possibly pop up? And
no, I don't think so, because they're going through a rebuild right now, and I think they maybe move some players out. Got a lot of players contracts expiring. You got to, does DeBrincat move on? So I don't think that's the situation for him. I think the perfect situation would be Winnipeg. Team is ready to win now. They have the talent. They have the team there. I think it'd be a perfect situation for him.
See, very interesting. Carlos, who's been all over Trotz, says now he says they won't make the playoffs after firing him, and it's kind of all Lou's fault, which again is very interesting when he's been blaming Trotz for a year now. So.
I know, right? So,
Alan's
welcome to the wagon.
Right. Alan's got a good question for you here. Which below-average team at this moment do you see taking a major step forward next year?
All right. So do we count Vegas as a below average team because they probably should have made the playoffs this year, and they had opportunities to do it down the stretch. Vegas is definitely gonna make the playoffs next year.
I might eliminate them from this question. Though.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Look, there's so many good teams. I mean, each team. What do we describe as taking a step forward? Like, because for the Montreal Canadiens, they're in a rebuild. If we see progress under Martin St. Louis and they move up in the standings, that's taking the next step. For New Jersey, it's moving closer in the standings, building around Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and the young talent and moving closer instead of always having a top 10 draft pick. For teams like, Winnipeg, they need to get back into the playoffs. We know Nashville's getting new ownership. Yeah. Something that was kept secretive by the league until they said that all the franchisers were stable. Is it something like that? Is, a team like Ottawa going to take the next step? What about Detroit? Are they going to inch closer to the playoffs? What are the Islanders going to get back in? Like, it all, that question varies from team to team. And what do you see progress as? And what do you see taking the next step forward as? It can't be, oh, well, we're here, we got to make playoffs. I think it's a gradual step, similar to what we saw with the Rangers, what they've been doing. I think the Islanders have to get back to the playoffs next year for it to be successful and for everything to be to everything that they did to pay off. And then you go from there. And
you have to wait till you see what the offseason moves these teams make with trades
exactly.
and the draft and whatnot. So probably a better question for us to talk about in the fall, Alan. And then because there's always, in every sport, there's a team that surprises us. So we'll talk about what teams we can expect to surprise us later on. We do have the award show coming up on Tuesday night where all the major awards will be presented. Anything there that any shockers you see coming out of this award presentation, I guess, on Tuesday night? What would surprise you? Either somebody not winning or somebody that you think will really step up that we don't expect to win.
I mean, the only shocker would really be if Shesterkin gets the Hart. I think that would be a shocker. I think that would be a real shocker to people. I think that would be a big one, even though he's nominated. I think that would be a shocker to a lot of people. But to me, that would be one, because I think he's locked in to be the Vezina Trophy. I think he's going to get that. I think everything is going to line up like they're supposed to. I really don't see anything else like majorly crazy. I think everybody's supposed to win the awards that they're supposed to win.
We have to have these award shows all the times, it seems to. Are they necessary, or can't we just announce the winner? So, I mean, do we need these? Is it just filling time on?
I think it's just filling time on Tuesday night because they need to do something. But to me, I like the way they were just doing it, like prior to games, just announcing it and then having the Zoom call at the first intermission. It was like, okay, here we go. But these are the major awards, so I guess this is what we have to do. Yeah.
What else is going on in the world of NHL we should touch on before we let you go today? And probably next week we may have a champion to talk about, but let's talk about what else you think we should be looking for.
State of the Union address prior to Game 1. Gary Bettman said that the National Hockey League will be back on a regular schedule. October 11th starts the new season. Schedules will be released sometime in July. Ownership groups are doing well. If anybody thinks Tampa was cheating and finding loopholes, Gary Bettman and Bill Daly adamantly denied it. Everybody plays on the same playing field. Everybody uses the same CBA. So that was that. And again, they're saying it's a means to an end for Arizona to be playing in ASU Hockey Arena so that everything can get finalized in Tempe. So after this, draft and free agency begins.
Busy time. It'll still be a busy time. Every sport now seems to find a way to try to keep themselves in the news, 12 months a year. So, and the NHL needs that exposure in the off season, because this is obviously their prime time as we get through these playoffs. But the NHL needs to be able to kind of catch up to the other leagues. They need that off season exposure that, like the NFL gets, and the NBA gets to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got the exposure they wanted this year with ESPN and Turner, and especially during the playoffs, because I think people are talking more about Stanley Cup than they were the NBA.
Do you think that's a good question? Actually, with just a couple of games left, do you think that this new TV deal has worked out for the best then for the NHL?
I think so. More exposure, national exposure. I think one lesson to learn is that when the games are on ESPN on a Saturday night, they'll move it to ABC. I think they'll have more weekend games next year since they don't have the final. I think that's what they'll learn from that. Maybe make some better choices when it comes to personnel. But his first year, I thought it was good.
Well, it's good to see that ABC didn't think they had a repeat episode of The Bachelor that would be a better draw than the NHL last night. So that's
exactly
good news. Good news there. So, all right, Jim. Listen, we'll let you go. Enjoy your Father's Day. Hopefully, you'll see your dad and wish him a happy Father's Day for the show. And we'll see you next week to, who knows, maybe talk about crowning a champion.
Absolutely. Can't wait for it. Thank you again. Always a pleasure to jump on here, talk some hockey.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
The great Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey on the Mad Radio Network. You can check that out. Again, I'll often share the shows when I think about it. And fullpresshockey.com, guys, a great, great place to go get your hockey news. If you are not doing it, go like the page on Facebook at least. And then you can check out TGI Sports Talk too, because I do share a lot of Jim's articles, but not all the articles. There's a lot of other stuff there that, yikes, what the heck did I just click on? Holy moly. Anyway, we're going to move on real quick. I'm going to play and don't go away, but I want to play a quick video, 30 seconds, promoting the Dream Ride experience, which Northeast Streaming Sports is a big sponsor of this year, and it takes place August 26th through the 28th, raising money for a very good cause. $3 million last year, $18 million overall. Please take a quick look at this video, and we'll be right back in 30 seconds.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
All right, great cause there, guys. Get involved. Also, by the way, we've got to talk about the Wish Fest also in Johnstown, New York, coming up here in July, I think. I meant to put a graphic together. I apologize, Ray Golick, for not getting that done today. But please check it out. Wish Fest. There's a link that I will put up on the TGI Sports Talk page, and we'll talk about it here in the coming weeks as well. So my bad there. Got a little busy and did not get that put together. So I really apologize for that. And what do we got here? We got some comments here. Carlos, I'm sorry I didn't get to all your NHL stuff, but, I just can't go on about Trotz forever. Man, NHL's a main attraction. I wish I had gotten that up, sir. Sorry, but you're right. Once the NHL's done, or I'm sorry, the NBA's done, and the NHL does a good job of staying away from the NBA finals, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But the NBA stretches out their games so far. It's not that hard to do. NHL at least stays on an every other night schedule, and the NBA just prolongs these series too long with 3, sometimes 4 days between games. Kenny's here. Good morning, Kenny. Tending your garden, and you can now listen to the best sports talk around. Well, thank you for that compliment, Kenny. Glad to hear that you're able to listen to us as you're working. Notre Dame and Oklahoma. Good point. College World Series. Some really good stories there. Notre Dame's one of them. A lot of hostility amongst Tennessee fans who got beat by Notre Dame, thinking, I don't know. They had the best. Tennessee had a great team. Were they a better team than Notre Dame throughout the course of the year? Probably. But they weren't when it mattered. When they were playing Notre Dame, they were not the better team on the field those days, and that's what happens. But Notre Dame is a great story and a great run here. I mean, I don't know in my lifetime that I remember. I'm sorry. I don't know that I remember Notre Dame making it to Oklahoma to the the round robin tournament to decide the College World Series champion. So I'm sure they have at some point, and I'm just not thinking of it. But congratulations, and as Kenny said, who's a big Notre Dame promoter, good. So we got Kenny against Alan today. Alan, the big Oklahoma fan, and Kenny, the big Notre Dame fan. So I'll stay neutral. I'll put that game on one of my TVs. I got to have the last round of the Open on. Kenny, we got to chat about the live tournament or the live tour in Saudi Arabia. I did a vlog on it, and you may or may not agree with me. I don't know, but maybe we'll have you pop in one day and we'll have a little conversation about this, because I have really got some strong feelings. And watch that vlog I did Friday, guys. Maybe I'm off base. I don't know, but I don't understand how these guys can take this kind of blood money. We won't go backwards. So let's move on to baseball. Hopefully our baseball fans are with us. Rick Sherlock's not with us today. I hope Rick's doing okay on this Father's Day. We'll wish him a happy Father's Day no matter where he is. And I do wish you guys, Kenny, happy Father's Day. I know your dad, Alan. I don't think that's your situation, but if you got fur babies, they're your kids too. So whatever you might have, happy Father's Day to everybody, as we talked about earlier. Major League Baseball. Yankees just keep rolling, right? We'll talk a little bit about the power rankings. We'll go around the league a little bit. We'll talk about some other stories brewing, possible buyers and sellers as we move towards the trade deadline, which again, I think is August 2nd or 3rd. It's moved back a couple of days from July 31st. I think you're going to see teams making moves far before that. Teams who think they're, maybe teams that aren't quite at the top, but with the expanded playoffs, there's going to be many more buyers probably than there are sellers. So you may see less action, even though there's more teams involved. I don't know what I'll hash out. We'll have to see. But, the two best teams in baseball right now, record-wise at least, are the Yankees and the Mets. And they've done it quite differently, as we talked about on the Are You Serious show. Let's see if real quick before I move on, I'll put up our last comment about the College World Series today, and we can bring this up maybe in the last half hour too if we want to talk more about it. When I will have give you guys more opportunity, because we do not have Mark Mancini with us today. I don't think I mentioned that, but Mark won't be with us today. We do have Auburn, Stanford, and A&M and Texas in elimination games today, which are always fun. You do have a cat, so you are a dad. Good job, Alan. Happy Father's Day to you. So anyway, the Mets and the Yankees, look at two best records in baseball. Got there two totally different ways. The Yankees have been just dominant on offense, even with some major holes in their lineup. The Mets, and they've done it with their starting pitching. They've done it with their bullpen, even though they've had some injuries out there, and Chad Green and Chapman and Loizaga, who I think, is still one of the keys to that bullpen. But Clay Holmes has stepped up to be the closer, and likely will be the closer when Chapman comes back. And you've gotten just tremendous output from Judge, who's on a historic pace, and he stayed healthy, and he's proven everything. Again, the Yankees made a colossal mistake not locking this guy up before the season started. Colossal. If they want to bring him back, which I think is hugely important to this franchise, as I've said over and over again, it's going to cost him a lot more. He's going to get a Mike Trout contract. He is. And he's the face of this franchise, and he means, I've said this over and over, he means more to this team than the production on the field. He's on a pace to hit 68 home runs and 140 some RBIs, I think. The team's on a pace to win like 118 games. They can play 500 the rest of the year and win 99 or 98 games. But key is winning in postseason, as we all know. The Yankees have won 100 games a couple of times, I think, under Aaron Boone, at least once, maybe twice, and haven't gotten past the ALCS. So the problems with this team need to be addressed, as I said. We'll talk more about that when we get to the buyer-seller. Joey Gallo's probably got people excited because he's been on a little run, driving in some runs, hitting some home runs the last week or so. But there's still a problem there. His OPS is awful. How this guy has, it's very interesting. Let me talk about Joey Gallo for a second. His OPS is still lower than Trevino's. 100 points, 120 points, I think, lower than Trevino, who's not a big hitter. Good clutch player. But should Joey Gallo be behind Trevino at this point in the season by 120 points in OPS? And if you want to point out, and I like to point this out, I think WAR is a nonsensical statistical value to put on players. And maybe just because I'm not a math genius and I don't understand it, I just don't. And it's one of the stats that I hate. Joey Gallo is in the positive, not very far, mind you. Not even one full game, but he's not even in the negative when it comes to WAR. If that statistic were real and you had a team full of Joey Gallos, you'd be losing 120 games a year. So I don't understand, it just. Yeah, Kenny, we'll definitely talk about this. I talked about it a little bit at the top of the show. Maybe we'll get a chance in the last half hour. Watch my vlog if you haven't, and then you and I can chat about it. It's an abomination what these guys are doing, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Do I feel anyone will take a chance on Lorenzo Cain? I think somebody might, because look, he's a good defensive ball player. He might have something left in the tank. I think he's only hitting about 170 right now. He's a little long in the tooth. I would think somebody will take a chance on Lorenzo Cain. I really do. Been a great player for a long time with the Royals and with the Brewers. His heyday really came with the Royals and those teams that went to back-to-back World Series. That was a fun team to watch. We talk about the way baseball's played today. You don't have to go that far back in time, 2015 and 14 maybe, when the Royals were in back-to-back World Series and won one and lost one. They were a team that put the ball in play and hit it where they weren't. Played the game pretty much the way it's meant to be played. And Lorenzo Cain was a big part of that. And I hope he does get his shot here going forward. Maybe the Yankees bring him in. I don't know. He can't do any worse. I mean, he gets designated for assignment. He's had a much better year than Gallo and Hicks. Not much better, but you know what I'm saying. If the Yankees let Judge go, it would be close to Boston letting Ruth go. Now, you know what, Kenny? That sounds outrageous, but it's not. It's not, because again, Aaron Judge means more to this team financially than just what he does on the field. He's a face of the franchise, and from a marketing standpoint, he's a more important player in New York than he is somewhere else. And now they're going to have to pay him. He does deserve a contract. You know what? The knock on him's always been his health, and knock on wood, he's been healthy basically for the last 2 seasons. 3 seasons, really, I think. I mean, I don't know that he missed that many games during the COVID season. I'm having trouble remember. I could pull up his stats, but I don't want to. And I think Aaron Judge has learned how to play the game and stay healthy. He doesn't do the reckless things that he did when he was younger. And, he's got a big body, and he's got more ways to get injured than a lot of players. And he's learned to take care of himself without not hustling on the field. We should debate this Gallo trade sometime down the line. The problem here, Alan, is there's nothing to debate. I want to give him back, and I don't even want any of the players back. Oh, just reached 10-year milestone. Who are we talking about? Trout, maybe. I'm not sure. But we're not talking about Judge. He hasn't played 20 years. Totally agree on WAR ideas to hit the ball. WAR is a ridiculous. I don't even know. I mean, you got to be a math. You got to be not even a math major. You need to have a master's degree, in math and trigonometry and whatever else you can think of. And I'm not the brightest guy in the world, guys. But you know what? Baseball's pretty simple. We don't need all these stats. And it's not how much you hit, it's when you hit, right? WAR doesn't necessarily talk about that. WAR just takes a bunch of numbers, puts it in a computer, and tells me that this guy's worth more than the person that would replace him if he wasn't playing. You're going to tell me that I couldn't stick Lorenzen Cain in left field for the Yankees and we would have won less games? I don't think that's accurate. It's not so much that he's producing them with his overall draw and presence. Judge, yes, agree, Kenny. We're on the same page here. Look at that. Who signs Clint Frazier? If they're smart, nobody. Clint Frazier, by the way, I went off about Clint Frazier back in the spring, or maybe it was before spring training. I can't remember, but he went off about the Yankees and the Yankees organization, and he did it here again before the Cubs series. Clint Frazier ought to worry about Clint Frazier. Clint Frazier got more chances with the Yankees than he possibly deserved. And he blew every one of them. The guy's approach to the game is awful. He's got a bunch of talent, don't get me wrong. But his approach to the game is atrocious. His approach to defense is atrocious. His approach at the plate is atrocious. And if Clint Frazier would sit and worry about his own career and how to make himself a better Major League Baseball player and stop worrying about the Yankees, he'd be better off. Oh, Kane, 10 years in the league. Sorry. The delay sometimes throws me off, guys. So probably, a solution to this delay thing would be to maybe put something in there that I would know it's tied to a previous comment, and we can, it'll help me, I think. I think Kane will get a chance. I think somebody will bring him up. They might sign him to a minor league contract or something, but that can turn into something. Look what happened to Matt Carpenter. Interesting story I read the other day that Garver, the catcher for Texas, is greatly responsible for the Yankees' success because the Yankees were trying to get Garver. Garver got traded from Minnesota to Texas for Kiner Falefa, and the Yankees were after Falefa, so the Yankees stopped trying to get Garver, and they tried to go get Falefa and the catcher who's escaping my memory right now, and they wanted to get rid of Gary Sanchez, and it all worked out great for the Yankees. And the guy they really wanted this offseason was Garver, and it didn't work out. And also it got them Matt Carpenter, because when Garver came back, he wasn't ready to catch. They wanted to play him at DH. Carpenter saw no path to the major leagues playing with a Texas minor league team. Got his release, signed with the Yankees, who were interested with him in the spring, but he didn't sign with the Yankees with a minor league contract because he figured if he was going to play in the minor leagues, he wanted to play closer to home. Long story short, Carpenter gets his release, signs with the Yankees, and goes on a tear. 5 home runs in a week. So anyway, oh gosh, here we are with this whole freaking Joey Gallo thing. This thing's going to make me throw up at some point, Alan. Looks like Baltimore's on a roll. Where is Baltimore? Let's take a quick look. You know what? I will tell you this much. And we talked about this, I think, on the Mac and Jack show. Baltimore's 500 in their last 10. They're only 9 games under 500. Is that great? No. But this team goes out there and plays very hard every week. And I know Brandon Hyde's likely in trouble as the manager. But this team goes out and competes every night. And they give the Yankees fits. They've given this Eastern Division fits. And, they are a very, very good team. Stephen Gold. We'll talk about your Yankees now. I've been talking about them here for a little bit. Amazing run they're on. If they continue this, it will be a historic team. By the way, and I talked earlier about the Yankees, and they're on a pace to win 118 games, which would be a record. The problem you got to be careful of, this is all wonderful stuff. Judges' numbers and judges' projections and the Yankees' projections. Who even remembers that the Seattle Mariners, the year after A-Rod left, so I want to say 2004 or 5, I can't remember the exact year, set a major league record for wins with 115, sorry. They went out in the first round of the playoffs. Nobody remembers about that because you got to win in the playoffs. It doesn't matter that you win 115 games. It's nice, but people aren't going to remember. Yankees won 114 games in 1998. If they'd lost in the playoffs, which conceivably could have happened, nobody would think that was a good year. Garver hasn't even been the main catcher here. He's been mostly hurt or been a DH, right? Jonathan Helm is right. And that's what I was kind of alluding to. The fact that they decided to bring him back to play to play DH led Matt Carpenter to ask for his release. So that was his only path to the majors with the Texas Rangers. And he comes and produces at a time the Yankees really needed him. There you go. As I said, it's not a historical season or a season to remember without winning. And that's a fact of life here in New York. And Stephen, I doubt that you'll disagree with me and it's maybe not everywhere else. Seattle Mariners probably still look back at the Seattle fans, probably still look back at that 115 win season as a tremendous season. That doesn't happen in New York because you don't have that luxury. You need to win, especially with the Yankees. That's what 27 world championships do for you. You need to win, and that's Brian Cashman's big problem. I'll give Brian Cashman a pass for today. This team is winning. I still worry about the postseason if they don't address the two biggest problems in the lineup, which is left field and center field. Listen, I've lost my Yankees card on the Mac and Jack show, Judge. I've been suspended by Mac because I picked the Yankees not to make the playoffs in the preseason. And again, I've said I was wrong. Mac wants an apology. I'm not apologizing for the fact my opinion at that time was what it was. I will always tell you my opinion. I'm not a rose-colored glasses guy where I can't talk about my team unless it's positive. Some of the groups I share my shows to and my vlogs to, if I get down on the Yankees or the Patriots, they're telling me to shut up, and if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything. All I'm doing is commenting on what I see. If it's good, I will say it's good. If it's bad, I will tell you it's bad. Everything's good right now. The team's playing at a 750 clip, but they got to win. And if I see a potential problem, I will point it out to you. Maybe one. Oh, what do we got here? I'm sorry, I missed. Clint Frazier will be signed by no one. I doubt it. He's done nothing to deserve another chance in my mind. There's probably one done team out there that will sign him because they'll see the potential in this kid. He's got loads of potential. The Yankees didn't bring him in here, and I think it was in the Andrew Miller trade. They didn't bring him in here because they thought he stunk. But he's got a bad attitude. He thinks he's something he's not. He's got a sense of entitlement that he hasn't earned. Alan. Whoever thought we'd talk about the Texas Rangers so much on this show? I'm glad Alan's around. Silver lining for Texas, though. Helm has been one of the more underrated catchers in the league this year, and he's come up big in big situations. I don't disagree. I don't know that much about him specifically. I've started to look at the Rangers a little closer, Alan, as they've played better, and obviously you're a big contributor on the show, so I like to stay up on them. And as I've said before, numbers don't say everything. It's not about how much you hit. It's about when you hit. So if you hit in big situations, that's an important thing. Max is a moderator with too much power. Well, I put my Yankee hat on to get on there this morning. Mac's a good guy. We have a lot of fun. Brian Reynolds would be a great fit for this team. He's having a down year in Pittsburgh. Good call though, Neil. But one of the problems I see is he's a young guy and the Pirates signed him to an extension before the year. They tried to lock up some of their young, better players like Reynolds and Brian Hayes, and might be another one that's escaping me. I'm not sure that the Pirates are going to be willing to part with him without being overwhelmed. And I'm not trading one of the top prospects for this kid. He's a nice player, and he would look really good in center field. I agree. Again, he's had a bit of a down year this year. Let me quickly look at his numbers. Bear with me 1 second. As I say that, he could have come back here a little bit recently. I'm not really sure. Brian Reynolds. Yeah, he's only hitting 248. He does have 11 homers and 21 RBIs, and his OPS is, by the way, 100 points higher than Joey Gallo and probably at least 120 points higher than Aaron Hicks. He's, I believe, above average center fielder. And he can play left field, too. If you decide that you want to play Judge in center field, you can play Reynolds in left. He'd be a guy that I would target. I'm just not sure that the Pirates would be willing to make that move. But I don't disagree with the sentiment even a little bit, Neil. Guys are all over it today. Where are we? I lost my... guys got a lot of comments. I love it. Al would take Lorenzo. Is it Lorenzo or Lorenzo? Is it Lorenzo? I keep saying I never know which one it is. Anyway, he'd take Kane, Texas specifically, because you need outfield defense outside of Garcia. Probably not a bad fit for your team, Alan. Again, Kane gets a job in my mind because of his professionalism, because there's still probably something left there on its defensive side of the baseball. And, what's Clint Frazier going to get? Why should Clint Frazier get another shot? And Lorenzo Kane, who's really shown he can be a productive major leaguer, won't. Oh, I'll be okay. I'm fighting for my, I'm not giving that apology. Not giving the apology. In today's society, no one wants the truth, just a fairy tale. Again, that's why I try to say what's on my mind. I try to give you my honest opinion about everything. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's off the wall, including my teams. I'm not just going to go out there and say, hey, the Yankees are great. Brian Cashman's great. Aaron Boone's great. They've had a great season so far. My opinions of those two guys haven't changed a whole lot. We'll see. Texas does have sports teams. Oh, Alan, you're getting called out here now. I know recently the Dallas Mavericks have played pretty well, but I don't know about the others. Alan, of course, is a fan of the Rangers and the Cowboys, as we know. Interestingly, not a Mavs fan. I believe he's an Oklahoma City fan, which I think is kind of interesting. Oh, he's in Oklahoma now that I think about it, right? You don't have any other teams in Oklahoma except for pro teams, except for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Rangers are coming to Citi Field here in the 4th of July. They're also coming to play Philadelphia. So this is going to be an interesting week or coming up in the next few weeks. They'll be traveling east and playing the Phillies, playing the Mets, and probably one other team. Maybe the Nationals. Not sure. Alan will probably know. Going to be a very big test for the Rangers. That's a tough road trip for them. Same as the teams in the East going west, which the Mets just did. Important series coming up. Carlos. I'm not even sure what to say here, Carlos. I don't know what to say here. You tend to forget the things that you're wrong about. That's all I will say. You do get some stuff right. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy our debates, but you have a tendency only to remember the things that you got right. While I'm here standing up for the things I got wrong, as well as the things I got right. Here you go, Philly. Listen, the Phillies are on a roll, by the way. Talking about teams that are hot. I'll get back to your comments here in a second. The Phillies are red hot. Brian, I think they're, if I'm not mistaken, I think I count up they're 15-2 since Rob Thompson, who really deserved a shot here, took over. Now, this is still a very flawed team. This team is going to need to score buckets and buckets of runs to be able to win games because of their suspect defense and pitching staff, especially the bullpen. But the starters don't have a horrendous ERA overall. It's the defense that'll certainly be the downfall of this team. But they're playing really good baseball. They've made this National League East horse race again. Both them and the Braves. The Braves are 8-2 in their last 10. So are the Phillies. Although the Braves have lost their last 2, but they're playing much, much better baseball and much earlier than they did last year. So they're making their move a lot earlier, but the Mets still managed to have a 6.5 game lead, even as they've kind of struggled a little bit with their West Coast trip in places, struggling with some injuries, and they lose McGill the other day for God knows how long. But again, this is what managers get paid to do, is navigate these tough times, right? Every team's going to win 60. Every team's going to lose 60. And it's what you do with the other 62 that really matters. I came up with a plan. That's too many games. Well, I guess if you include the playoffs, the other 42. And that's where the manager matters, right? Where'd I leave off here? Maybe Tories will be moved soon. I don't know. I got to tell you, I don't want to move Tories anymore. Another place I will change my opinion on. Tories was not playing well, hadn't played well for a couple of years. I was of the opinion and I still thought he would be a great player. I did not think he could come back and play productive baseball in New York, because it's very hard to do. And it's very hard to come back when you've had the type of years that he'd had the last few years. But Gleyber Torrey, since moving back to second this year, his defense is improving. He's got his average all the way up to 260. And listen, his average was way down there earlier. He's hitting in big spots. His OPS is over 800. By the way, 150 points higher than Joey Gallo. He's got 12 homers, 29 RBIs. Played better defense, still could walk a little bit more. His on-base percentage is only 307. And he's played better defense. And by the way, here's another key stat: 11 doubles. Just an FYI, Joey Gallo and Aaron Hicks have 6 between them. I'm not moving Tories. I'm moving Gallo or Hicks. I don't care if I got to eat all of their contracts. The aforementioned Rangers and the trash can wielding Astros. Listen, don't get me going on the Astros. I know you guys all have this opinion. I still think, and I will tell you until the end of time, that is one of the most overblown controversies in the history of sports. That and letting the air out of footballs. Again, teams doing what every other team does, maybe taking it to another level. But if you, in today's age, if you think these teams aren't trying to cheat electronically, every single one of them, you got your head buried in the sand. Back to Reynolds with Neil Bush. You're right, Neil. He is hitting better. As when I looked at the stats, are definitely improved from when I looked at them the last time. And he is a really nice player, younger. And on the younger side, which the Yankees could certainly use more of. I just don't know that the Pirates are going to be willing to move him. Pirates are in this mode now where they're trying to get their young stars locked up. I think they signed him to his extension wasn't as long as Brian Hayes, which I think was 7 years. And Reynolds might have been for 4 years. I'm not positive on that, but they did extend him. That's the point. Well, I got a lot of comments from you guys. I love it. They don't need room for Volo because he's not ready yet. Neither him or Peraza are ready to come to the majors yet. So I don't need to make that move now. And probably and by the way, one of them is going to play shortstop. Kiner Falefa, we knew from the very beginning, was a stopgap. When they come up, at least one of them, maybe they could be the second and shortstop combination for the long term. But the chances of both of them making it isn't tremendous, but it could happen. They could be a Whitaker and Trammell combination for a decade. But they're not ready today. And your best bet is to go with Falefa and Torres at those positions. That's your best infield. LeMahieu, Falefa, Torres, and Brizzo. Who's the key to that whole infield, by the way. And then, when they bring him up, I mean, Falefa's probably going to be a utility man, which is what they envision for him maybe after this year. Depends if these kids are ready or not. Okay, what we got? Kane's 36. I get it. So what? If he can offer me if he can offer the Rangers, again, I got two guys in left field and right field that aren't playing much worse than a guy who just got designated for assignment. Who did? Kane got hit. That's never good. That's never good. I've been there. Not a lot of fun. I guess Alan's talking about the rest of the Texas Rangers trip east. Oh, all right. As long as you know you get stuff wrong, Carlos. That's what's important. I think what it is I wear you down in these arguments. And you end up thinking, in your head, you came around to my way of thinking and you forgot that you ever thought the wrong way. Here's a good question. Why can Mississippi be called rebels? Look at, I knew this conversation would come up. I touched about this. I think it's fine that they're called the rebels. I know it probably offends people in the North, maybe not in the South, but in the North, I'm sure, the same people are tearing down statues because we cannot commemorate our history, good or bad. We're not allowed to do that. I mean, so think about this, Kenny. This came up the other day, and it was Rick Sherlock that pointed out to me on the college football show the other day and I went and checked out the article. George Washington, University of George Washington is changing their nickname from the Colonials because it's now offended some people. Some people who think the name Colonials is just representative of and everybody that fits that term was representative of people that had oppressed the indigenous people of this country and took their land. And look at I understand this, and we all understand that this country's history was whitewashed in history books and whatnot for a long time, but that doesn't mean you have to necessarily do away with every single name that could have some context and offend somebody. In some context, offend somebody. I just don't understand. Colonials, your question's germane to that topic, and I'm probably going to do a vlog on this whole thing next week because it's really, and I know it won't be popular with a lot of people because there's a lot of people in this country more woke than me, probably 99.9% of them, and I'm basically unapologetic for it. I don't, just like I think jokes are funny, funny's funny. And I laugh at everything, and I make jokes about almost everything, And I'm not offended by anything because I make fun of myself more than I make fun of anybody or anything. So to me, it's funny. Things people may find inappropriate. And I'm sure there's a line. I could find a line. But I'm just not offended by anything. It's only a 2-game series versus Philly. Former Ranger Kyle Gibson against Otto. That'll be interesting. Kyle Gibson was traded for Cole Hamels, I think. Is that correct, Alan? You can't move dead players with hefty contracts. You can. Actually, you can. You eat the money. That's what you do, Carlos. You eat the money. Yankees did it for years. It's the New York Yankees. It's not the Kansas City Royals. Stop worrying about salary caps. Stop worrying about everything. And if I have to eat every penny of Joey Gallo's contract, I do it to get him out of town. That's just me. So don't say you can't. You can make a decision not to. And there are teams that can't do it. But I'm talking about the New York Yankees. Big Powell reborn. Boog Powell, I think you didn't hear, Kenny. Are you typing with your toes again? Boog Powell reborn on Auburn. 263-pound first baseman. Man, that could be me. Bring up the kiddos. Why would you bring up the kiddos now? You got the best record in baseball. You don't get rid of the guys that are playing well and contributing to that record and keep the guys that have not and bring up guys that are unknown. You don't do that. Not at this point. When they brought up the kids the last time in Mass, 2015 or 16, when they brought up Judge and they brought up Sanchez, and they brought up Austin Tyler, I think his name was, and a couple other guys, because they traded away everybody because they weren't winning. They actually played better, but you don't know what's going to happen, and you're not going to do it when you got the best record in baseball. Yeah, we should get rid of the name Rebels because, and we should tear down every statue that was ever put up commemorating the Civil War. Horrible time in our country. And let's just forget about our history entirely because, the old axiom, those who forget their history are bound to repeat it, is one of the truer axioms in the world, by the way. Oh, God. Please. 86-year history of using the name. Just throw it away. 86 years. Now look I understand George Washington University is not one of the most storied universities in the history of college sports. But when you have an 86-year affiliation with a logo and a nickname, I think you should be allowed to keep it. Gibson was traded last year. Who would they trade him for? I thought he was part of that Cole Hamels deal a couple years ago. Carlos asked Browns about them. It's another topic we'll get into in a little bit. Yankees going to eat great when Judge moves to San Francisco. Oh, my God. This is why you're so wrong, Carlos. You just don't understand why this guy's so important. The numbers on the field are enough to warrant him being extended. And what are they going to do? They're going to go out and sign some other guy for nearly the money they would have paid Judge, because that's what they do historically, the Yankees. The Yankees love everybody else's players more than anybody else. Or their own players, I'm sorry. I talked about this how many times now? I could bring up a ton of examples, where they nearly let Bernie Williams walk to the Red Sox until Bernie came back for less money. They told Derek Jeter go out and shop himself a contract. But at the same time, they're signing A-Rod, they're signing CC, who I love, CC, to historically big contracts, but not their own guys. Andy Pettit will let you walk to Houston. Oh, Alan, I believe Dane Dunning and a couple other guys in that trade. Okay, fair enough. They are unknown. I believe these guys will be great players. That whether they will or not is unknown, Carlos. I mean, I don't know another way to explain it to you. We don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what Aaron Judge is going to do in the future, but I have a track record to go by. These guys have no track record in Major League Baseball, none. And I think both these kids will be great. So you're putting me in a position of having to make it sound like I don't want them on the team. I don't want it on the team now. That's all. Next year's next year. Well, Carlos, explain to me why Aaron Judge needs a California air to revive him. That's fine. I don't care. All I care about what the Yankees need to do to pay Judge to keep him here. Now, I will tell you this, and that's a great example. The Yankees are stupid enough to say, Judge, you're not worth the money, but then give it to Juan Soto. Great player. But don't give it to the guy who earned his stripes with you, has ties to you, has been the face of your franchise. Let him walk and give the money to Juan Soto. That's just stupid. Missed this one. Thank you for standing up for common sense. I try. I'm not sure which comment that's tied to, Neil. Probably a lot of them here. I mean, I am not the brightest guy in this room or any room I'm in. I don't have a college degree. I certainly don't have a master's or doctorate, and I am the stupidest guy in many rooms that I'm in. But I like to think I've got some street sense and some common sense, and I try to apply it to almost every situation. And it's very helpful. Unfortunately, as Mark Twain so perfectly stated, the thing about common sense is it's so uncommon. Oh, I got that already. Carlos, you really have a mental block on what makes a team. He does. I will have to agree. And I'm trying to work on it with him, Kenny, but it's not working out. Gibson and Ian Kennedy were traded for 3 prospects. Okay. Thank you, Alan. I missed that. The Yankees, it's the Yankees. They don't care about players. They have to sell tickets and jerseys. Exactly why Aaron Judge cannot be moved. Knucklehead. Who sells more jerseys for the Yankees than Aaron Judge? Oh, I'm worked up now. I don't need. We will embrace the change when the need is there, Carlos, but you don't need to make change for change's sake. How many times we had this conversation? I don't fire a manager or a coach unless I know I have somebody I think will be better. Not just make change for change's sake. Three. Well, yes. Now they're becoming unknown. Texas took a leap of faith trading for these guys, but it was not known what they could do. We knew what expectations were. So you're right. We didn't know what Joey Gallo would do in New York, because not everybody can come to New York and perform the way they played wherever they were playing before without the scrutiny and the microscope they have to play under here. So you win that trade. And they lowballed him. You may not think he's worth the money, Carlos, but him and his team does, and so do I. And the Yankees have cost themselves millions of dollars because when they do re-sign Judge, and they will come to their senses and re-sign him, he will have gained about $7 or $8 million a year on top of what he wanted in the spring. And by the way, the Yankees think they're going to win the public relations battle by releasing the numbers that he turned down, has backfired on them tremendously as well. Oh my God. Look at the Yankees do not lose signing this guy for $50 million, Carlos. This team is worth $3 billion, $4 billion, I'm guessing. You think $41 million to pay him is like a drop and a half for this team? If the Kansas City Royals signed him for $40 million, they'd be stupid. The New York Yankees. You don't think so, right? There's not one dumb owner that would give him this. If the Yankees said he wasn't worth 6 years, you don't think there's one dumb owner that would give him 6 years, you're wrong. Give him the money. Every team signs these guys for 6 years, and they know on the back end they're not getting their money's worth. They all know that. Yeah, sign him. 3 years, he doesn't sign anywhere. He'll go to Japan and play, for crying out loud. I'm not giving it. He doesn't want 10 years. Well, maybe he wants 10 years. I'll give him 10 years. He'll be 40 years old. Gave A-Rod 10 years. Stupidly. Not half the play. Great player. Bad guy. Bad teammate. Bad fit for the team. Aaron Judge is everything that's right about baseball and sports. And as the face of the franchise, and you just give him what he needs to have to stay here. That's all there is to it. Oh, my gosh. How did I get on this for so long? That's all right. Where are we? Texas can take chances. They never lose in every sport. Oh, Kenny, if you haven't noticed, Alan is not a Texas fan. Judge has value, but he can't be on that roster for 8 years. He can't. Why not? Why not? If he produces at the level he's producing now for 6 and declines the last 2 years, he earns his money because the contract values are only going to keep going up. They would have got a bargain at $33 million, but they wouldn't give it to him. Yeah, exactly my point. Let's go give it the money to somebody else. We don't even know who can play here, by the way. You want me to give you the list of guys who were big free agent signings in New York and could not deal with it here? Where do you want me to start? Ken Griffey. Senior, sorry. Steve Kemp, Ed Woodson. Steve Trout. I'll give you all these guys Yankees brought in were really good players elsewhere. Maybe not superstars. They couldn't play here. It takes a special person to be able to play under the microscope in New York. Now he's screaming at John Daniels to lock him up for a few years and help build his rotation. He should. Not enough teams do this. You can sign guys early on. Yankees should have done this with Judge. Yankees should have extended Judge 3 years ago, and they would have got a deal, but they don't. You're right. When you don't sign your players and you give it to somebody else, common sense doesn't exist. Being on a team for 8 years. Tell me yeah. Carlos being on a team for 8 years. Tell the Pittsburgh or any team. Not sure. I think we're still talking about Judge. Yankees have Stanton and Cole. Another example of the Yankees. And again, these are two guys that did perform. I can name 20 that didn't. especially pitchers. And the history of the Yankees started, before 10 years ago. Just, I can go back to the 70s when free agents started. All they need is Soto. So you should be running the Yankees, Carlos, because you have the same mentality they have. You and George Steinbrenner, all the revisionist history about George Steinbrenner kills me. Oh, we missed George. George was so good for this franchise. George this, George that. People don't remember George Steinbrenner nearly ruining the Yankees in the 80s, and it took him getting suspended and Stick Michael and Buck Showalter rebuilding the farm system and rebuilding the team that made them a championship team again, not George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner, and it continues today, would see other flashy players like Juan Soto and fall in love with them at the expense of his own guys. Stan's a great example. Has he been a productive player here? Yes. Is he a better, more important to this team than Aaron Judge? Not even close. Again, you keep missing the point, Carlos. These teams understand when they sign guys 30 years old to 10-year contracts, they already know they're not going to get value, the full value for what they're paying these guys. They're not going to get full value for what they're paying these guys the last 2 or 3 years of these contracts. They already know that. It's factored into their whole accounting and the way they calculate ROI and whatever other crazy accounting terms they use. Oh, God. Oh, great point. How did I miss Jacoby Ellsbury, by the way? Didn't want to pay Robbie Cano, who we know had his problems, I understand. But Robbie Cano went to Seattle and had some pretty good years, whether they were steroid-induced or not. But we signed the great Jacoby Ellsbury. Thank you, Neil. I was looking for a more contemporary example, and he's a perfect one. They let Robbie Cano walk to bring in Jacoby Ellsbury. We all know how that worked out. Excellent point. You're not understanding. You focus on me using one word, Carlos, and don't pay attention to the whole sentence. He's a shiny new toy. Yankees and George Steinbrenner ingrained this into this franchise that they fall in love with everybody else's players at the expense of their own. Listen to what I'm saying. You're picking out one words, and it doesn't work, buddy. He's a good, solid player, and he's younger than Judge. I get it. I'm not taking anything away from Juan Soto. This isn't a Juan Soto issue. This is an Aaron Judge conversation. There's a blip of time. It just shows his inability to understand it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I understand. That's fine, Kenny. I kind of had it figured out. And again, when these teams know when they sign them to long-term contracts, they are not getting what they expected on the back end. Often they negotiate those contracts, renegotiate those contracts going forward. Jason Bay, another bad signing, by the way. Get it. Jason Bay is not Aaron Judge. It's stupid baseball, Carlos. That's the point. It's stupid baseball. It's not baseball. Yes. And by the way, Justin Turner never had any success in New York. No real success to any. There was no indication Justin Turner would turn into the player that he turned in with the Dodgers when the Mets let him go. You know what you have in Aaron Judge. What you have in Aaron Judge is, with no hyperbole, the best player in baseball. You can keep Mike Trout. You can keep Ohtani. You can keep Juan Soto. For the next 5 years, Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. And that's just on the field. And this is why the Yankees haven't won a title since 2009. Inconsistency in the front office and not keeping players they need to. Yes, thank you, Alan. And this is also why they've been to one World Series since 2003. One. Oh, we're worked up today, man. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Man, I did not think I'd get on this topic all morning, and I don't care because it's one I am very passionate about if you haven't noticed. Again, but you bring up things that are not even remotely connected, Carlos. The Justin Turner situation with the Mets has no connection to the Aaron Judge situation with the Yankees. There is no way for the Mets to have known that Justin Turner would turn into the player he turned into with the Dodgers. The Yankees know exactly what they have in Aaron Judge. Exactly. The Yankees don't care about winning either. I won't disagree with this point, Carlos. You finally say something that makes sense. The Yankees don't care about players. They care more about other people's players that they like, the shiny new toys, to use Alan's phrase. They just want to win. Yeah. And you are not going to win trading away your best player, the best player in baseball, not trading him away, letting him walk away for nothing. You're not going to win doing that. And again, good point. I've been focusing more, and I say this all the time, Kenny. Aaron Judge is more important to this team than just what he brings to the field. You, of all people, Carlos, should understand this. Excellent point again. Jersey sales, TV ratings, eyeballs watching games. Everybody stops when Aaron Judge comes to the plate. Turn the game on. I'm farting around the house. Aaron Judge comes up. I sit down and watch the at-bat. Same way with Reggie. Same way with Darryl Strawberry. Those players, and the same way with Mike Trout and those kind of guys. Those players are irreplaceable on your team. I don't blame the Astros for cheating, Alan. So if somebody might have talked about cheating that I missed, I don't blame the Astros. I don't care. I think that was the most overblown scandal in the history of sports outside of Deflategate. Yankees should have won the series. Exactly. The Yankees didn't score any runs. The Yankees gave up runs. Yankees had the better. No, the Astros had a better team, by the way. But the Yankees were in position to win that series. And the cheating, look at, everybody's doing their own thing. Everybody. God, it's his fault. Yeah, I know. What? Yankees can spend as much money as they want, Carlos. Money is no issue. This team is worth $4 billion. What are the Yankees worth? I want to know right now. I'm going to find out. Hold on. Hold your water for a second. This is not the Kansas City Royals. This is the New York Yankees. Oh, I'm so low. $7 billion this franchise is worth. $40 million for this guy is peanuts. What he wanted in the spring was even less. As Kenny said, this team recoups this contract that they're going to pay out over 10 years, whether it's $400 million or $500 million. They recoup it in TV money and merchandising in 3 years. Yearly this year is when fans become truly unruly. Judge showed why he's worth every penny. I agree. Very good point. Small little thing we don't look at. The same with most teams. I remember back in the 2000s, anytime Josh Hamilton came to bat. Well, everybody's got their guy, right? Hopefully, if you don't have a guy like that, your team is probably not fun to watch. Yep, and it ends up to the Yankees where the money goes, not at Carlos. This makes no sense compared to the rest of your argument. Don't make that comment. Oh, sorry, Carlos. Oh, God. Listen, Carlos is entitled to his opinion, no matter how wrong it might be. All right, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk real quick about some teams. Oh my gosh. It's funny. It's funny because it's true. I had a thing up here. I don't know what I did with it now. Let's look at some of the buyers and sellers. Real quick, let's go through some, and we can. I'll certainly backtrack here, guys. I'm not going to get to anything in the NBA again. I will say this: I know Kenny doesn't like the NBA, and maybe some others don't either. But we do a good job of not being able to get to anything with the NBA on this show. Oh boy, who are the buyers and sellers? There's going to be a lot more buyers and sellers this year, which changes the whole dynamic, right? Of the trade deadline, because there's more teams, there's more playoff spots, there's more teams in play. I'll give you one more shot. When Aaron Judge chose California over New York, then we will know how ridiculous this is. I'm not sure exactly what side of the argument you're on sometimes, Carlos. I'm really not. And Kenny, I don't know. Carlos says you can call him. I don't know about what, but American League East, the buyers, Yankees are going to buy. The Blue Jays are buying. The Rays are buying. The Red Sox are selling. Or you know what? The Red Sox are buying. Sorry. Maybe a month ago, we might have been concerned about the Red Sox. The Orioles will be sellers. And Trey Mancini's a guy on that team who could be moved. They're not going to move Cedric Mullins. But they've got a few building blocks on this team. But they got some veterans that could be moved for sure. So you can look for the Orioles to be sellers. The Twins will be buyers. I've heard there was talk about Byron Buxton coming to New York. They're not trading Byron Buxton when they're in a move for they're going to win their division. There's 6 games. I'm sorry, they're 2 games ahead. That can't be right. Who the hell does math here? There's no way that's a 2-game lead. It's very interesting. Well, it's at least a 3-game lead. The White Sox, who knows? I mean, the expanded playoffs keep the White Sox alive. And by the way, Tony La Russa probably is on death watch right now. The Tigers are probably going to be sellers. The Tigers, one of the most disappointing stories in baseball this year. And the Royals will be sellers. I'm getting to your thing here. May try, but they're not going to trade Martin Perez. If you lose Martin Perez, it's likely going to be to free agency at some point. I don't know his contract situation. But in the West, the Astros are going to buy. I would think the Rangers will be buyers. They're close enough to the wild card situation to be buyers. Maybe Seattle fools himself into thinking that they can make a run here. They're crazy if they do. This team is not ready to win. They're, again, like the Tigers, one of the more disappointing teams in at least an American League. It'll be interesting to see if The Angels think they can jump back in this, and whether they'll be a buyer or seller. You may only have 2 buyers in the West. But again, this expanded, let's see, look at the wild card here. The expanded playoff position keeps everybody alive. You know, where are we here? Like the White Sox, only 3 games out of the top playoff position. I'm sorry, top wild card position. The Rangers right there, 4 games. 4.5 for the Angels. These teams are probably all buyers. With the Mariners, Orioles, Tigers, Royals, and Athletics selling in the American League. In the National League, Padres buyers, Giants buyers. Giants playing really good baseball again, by the way, 8-2 in their last 10, 2 in a row. They've been a little streaky this year, but still a good baseball team and still playing really good baseball. So right now, Giants buy, Braves buy, Brewers buy, Phillies buy. Phillies will be buyers. Diamondbacks, you could see the rest of the team in the National League being sellers, though. Diamondbacks might fool themselves into thinking they're still alive. Marlins, I doubt will. But the Rockies, Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh trading Brian Reynolds, you'd have to really probably overwhelm them if Neil's still with us. I like the kid a lot. He'd look good in pinstripes, but I don't know that that's going to happen. Cubs, Reds, and Nationals, all sellers. Juan Soto, I don't see leaving the Nationals. The Nationals, he's young enough that the Nationals can rebuild. Well, they got a few years before they're going to be contenders again, but they've got time because he's not he's a young guy. So, Alan, I don't think you need to worry about losing Perez, at least at the deadline. Your worry would be at free agency. The A's got a good pool of players. Or they got a pool of players that teams will snatch up. Yeah, Montos. I think it's Montos. The pitcher will definitely get traded somewhere. The A's are just a bet. Look at one of the great jobs over the last decade has been how well the A's have done working with no payroll. Now, they've torn this down once or twice before and built it back up. And they are awful, but they found a way to build it back up. They're never going to win world championships the way they're operating. But they've managed to have teams that are contending for the playoffs more often than not in the last 10 years. I mean, they've competed more than the Rockies have, more than the Marlins have, more than the Pirates have, more than the Cubs. Well, not the Cubs, maybe. More than the Phillies have. More than the Diamondbacks have. The Royals, the Tigers, the Mariners, the Orioles, the Angels even, the Rangers. Now this team's torn it apart, and they look to rebuild it the way they did it in the past, and we'll see if it happens. Well, you called him dumb, though, Kenny. I don't think Carlos is dumb either, by the way. I do think he gets. I do think, Carlos, that you get. I don't know where the narrative that you get in your head comes from, but if you've noticed, you'll end up taking both sides of an argument sometimes. You just did it in the Yankee and Judge thing. I don't know. How much time we got here? 10:48. I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to skip the NFL today. I just don't have that much to talk about besides Deshaun Watson, and it hurts my head to talk about him. I want to talk for a few minutes about the Warriors and Steph Curry. Congratulations to them. Kenny, I'm only talking about the Warriors and Curry, so I hope I don't chase you off here the last 10 minutes because your input is certainly appreciated here on this show. I think this Warriors victory, this was not a great team. This team was nowhere near as good as the teams that won, 3 championships in 4 years, went to the finals. Let's see, I just had them up. Do I still have them up here? Bear with me a second. I don't know what I did with it. I had, there it is. So the Warriors went to the finals. They won the finals in 2014-15 with Steve Kerr's first year, won 67 games. Then they set a record the next year, winning 73 games, then 67. They lost the finals the year the year they won 73 games. But then they won the finals the next 2 years. Lost the finals. And if you remember, in that year they lost the finals, they also lost Durant, and they also lost Klay Thompson to injuries. And no championship team, no mini dynasty, if you will. They didn't win 3 in a row, but they won 3 out of 4 years, 3 out of 5 years, if you add in that last one. But then they didn't just not make the playoffs and not win. I mean, as other dynasties had kind of fallen apart, the Celtics, the Lakers, at least the 80s versions, the Bulls. They didn't, well, the second time the Bulls did fall off the map, but they didn't come back and win. No team has ever, they won 15 games the year Klay Thompson was out and Durant walked. 15 games. They did jump up to 39 in the COVID season, but still missed the playoffs. So after this downward trend of 2 years, this team came back and won the finals basically with the same core. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. All the other cast was different. Maybe Serge was there before, but he didn't contribute to this team at the end at all. He was hurt. And they had some other players. But Steph Curry is the heart of this team. Steph Curry is the best outside player ever to play in the history of the NBA. Steph Curry, I think, Alan asked me the question the other day, do I think he's top 10? I do. I do think he's one of the top 10 players in basketball history. And this finals showed just how important he is to this team. This team in Game 4 was on the verge of it all falling apart. They were lucky to win Game 1. They didn't play well in Games 2 and 3. They go to Boston. Everybody thinks they're going to lose, fall down 3-1, and likely lose this series in 5 or 6 games, probably 5. And Steph Curry puts on one of the great performances in the history of the NBA Finals and single-handedly kept his team alive and made a series 2-2. And that was the pivotal game. He came back in Game 5 with a tough game. He didn't play that well, but they picked him up. Allen Wiggins stepping up this year. He's had a really good year after being down, not meeting his potential in Cleveland. Became a really good player with the Warriors, and it's about the team chemistry. There's really good team chemistry here. Say what you want about Draymond Green, but he takes the pressure off the other guys with some of the outrageous stuff that he does. This is one of the great teams, a great run by teams in NBA history. When you factor in the fact that they rebounded after hitting rock bottom with the same core cast and then rebounding to win a world championship 2 years later, 3 years later, if you count the year they lost the finals. And Steph Curry, a big part of that. We got some comments here. Watch a couple of games, and I think Curry is out, without a doubt, the best player on the court. And now it's Green. That I agree exactly the point. Draymond Green gets a lot of grief because he's the kind of guy, Kenny, and I know you can relate to this. He's the kind of guy that if he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, you hate him. And every team needs a Draymond Green. He's a good player too. But he takes the pressure off these other guys with the outrageous crap he does on the court and says in the media. And Steph Curry is definitely the best player on the court. Tatum, who at this point probably is quite possibly a better player than Steph Curry overall, Jason Tatum. but he came up small in a big moment. Steph Curry stepped up big time at the time this team needed him most in Game 4. Had a pretty good game in Game 6 to close it out too, by the way. But Game 4 was the key. And this team deserves kudos. The way the game's played today, it's a lot different. But I'd always said when this Warriors team, and there was a lot of one-on-one isolationist basketball and a lot of three-point shooting. We get it; it's a different game. The Euro step that they get, that I know Kenny hates, and I don't love it either. But the way this game is played today, this Warriors team, I always said, and this team's a little bit different, but that's as much as you think. They still have great ball movement. It may end up in a three-point shot, but you would watch this team move the ball, and they would move the ball, and I made this comparison, and it might be a little bit outrageous, but they moved the ball like the early 70 Knicks, the championship team Knicks, 71 and 73. Just resulted in, instead of a 12-footer, it ends up in a 22-footer wide open. And Steph Curry, his range is remarkable. And he can get his own shot, too. I can't see what that is. I guess it's your garden. I don't know what that is. Kenny, have a great day. The rest of you guys have a great day, too. We're winding down here a little bit. I didn't get to everything I wanted to talk about, but that's okay. Sometimes we don't. But it was a great, lively debate with the baseball section. I loved it. Look this is a conversation that's going to go on all summer. It's going to go on all summer about Aaron Judge. So great stuff today. Thanks to Jim Biringer for coming in and talking to us about the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, as it were. A little bit about the coaching situations around. We talked a lot of baseball. We didn't get into in depth because we got on this Aaron Judge thing, but that's fine. It's all good. I want you guys involved, and you were today. So Alan, Carlos, Kenny, Neil, who else am I missing? I missed somebody who was on earlier. Any of you guys commenting today? I missed some of you. I apologize. What did we have at the very beginning? I want to go back. I want to give him a shout out. My God, look at all the comments today. Oh, Mark Hernandez. Yes, thanks for watching and tuning in. I think a newbie for us. Thank you, Mark. You guys have a great Father's Day. Enjoy it. Whether you're spending time with your dad, please enjoy it. Have a great, great Sunday, Father's Day. Final round of the U.S. Open will be a lot of fun. Final round of the game of the Yankee Blue Jay series. Blue Jays better pull out a win, eh? 12-game lead for the Yankees. Guys, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk. No, not Are You Serious? TGI Sports Talk, Stream of Consciousness show right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Have a great, great Father's Day.